Breaking right now, Tommy Robinson is due to arrive at the Westminster Magistrates Court any second to find out whether the British deep state will officially designate him a terrorist. This is after he was stopped by police who knew exactly what he was and who he was at the Channel Tunnel on the 28th of July 2024. He refused to hand over his phone and the password to his phone and the PIN code to his phone for very good reason, because of journalistic privilege. He was arrested and has now been charged under the Terrorism Act. So what is about to take place over the next hour is going to be utterly critical in terms of whether the British deep state will be able to forever dismiss Tommy Robinson as a terrorist. We're going to bring you every second of these dramatic developments with reporters inside the courtroom, and we plan to speak to Tommy as he arrives in court very shortly too. But first, let me bring in Don Keith. He is host of The Real Beef with Don Keith, and he sat through this entire trial just 3 weeks ago. Don, is this the ultimate opportunity for the British government to be able to designate Tommy Robinson forevermore a terrorist? What are you expecting to transpire over the next hour?
Well, of course, Dan, any opportunity they get to demonize Tommy Robinson, they're going to love that opportunity, right? It's the same thing they try to do to Donald Trump here in the United States. They were overjoyed when he was convicted on those 34 felony counts that were ridiculous and made up. But yeah, I think if this is a just magistrate, he's going to have to, Tommy's going to have to walk. And anything else just means this is just a corrupt judge that's controlled by the deep state there in the UK.
Let's just have a look at what Tommy Robinson said on his way to court today.
Because you see what this BBC reporter's doing? I done nothing compared to that. All I done was say to Muslims who are walking into court, how do you feel about your verdict? Dame Victoria Sharp from the High Court, from the Old Bailey, the head judge, she found that I caused them fear, alarm. I caused them fear and alarm to the Muslims who are walking into court. And for that, she sentenced me to prison. 10 months for that sentence, yeah? She gave me 10 months because I asked them, how you feel about your verdict? But of course, BBC don't get prosecuted. No one else gets prosecuted. So they have all these laws where when they want to turn them on, just like today, yeah? When they want to use them, they'll use them. And there's nothing anyone can do. Because right now, that BBC reporter, I don't believe they should be done, but if my case is a test case, which it is, then that person should be prosecuted and sent straight to prison. Because there's no way that what they asked was far more aggressive than what I asked. I simply asked, how do you feel about your verdict? That's it. And for asking that question, apparently, I made those poor Muslim rapists feel scared on their way into court. And that's what they sentenced me to prison for. That was 2019 at the Old Bailey. So just when I watch these, I just think, Jesus, man, it just shows how when they want to use contempt of court, they want to use any laws, financial laws, tax laws, anything. They can find anything to stick a target on you. Anything at all. Just like this. Today, counter-terrorism. Facing terrorism legislation. Could today be a convicted terrorist? For what? What was my crime? There was no crime. But what about Axel Rudicabana? They stressed to you, the public, he wasn't a terrorist. The bloke who just massacred 10 people on a train, he wasn't a terrorist. Shabina Mahmood. Let's not jump to conclusions. With me, it took 30 seconds to jump to conclusions. As I pulled in the border, it took them 30 seconds to make a decision to use terrorism legislation. So with everyone else, let's not jump to the conclusions. If they're not white, don't jump to conclusions. If they're white, they're straight, and they embarrass the government and report on the government, then we'll jump straight to conclusions. When I look at all these things, like watching this, I just think, Jesus, I got 10 months. I spent 3 months of solitary confinement for asking that question that BBC reporters asked. And they know the most frustrating thing. The BBC reporters and all the mainstream media, just like today, they're on their side. Because they know they're never going to use these laws against them. They know they're never going to turn them on them. Because they are part of the operation. They are part of a weapon of the totalitarian state. So they're never going to get put in jail. It's people who oppose the government. That's when they'll turn the laws on you. wankers.
So that is Tommy Robinson preparing for court this morning. And we can take a live shot actually outside the Westminster's Magistrates Court now. And you'll see Lauren Lunn-Farrow there is preparing for Tommy's arrival. Lauren, I'm not sure if you can hear us. We'll try and get
Being
her.
with Tommy.
Oh, yes. How is he feeling, Lauren?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm just keeping an eye because I'm going to grab Tommy in a minute for Outspoken viewers, but he's feeling relaxed, but he's exhausted. You know, yet again, we are seeing a two-tier judiciary system. So Tommy is coming down now. Hang on, I just want to grab him for you guys because we may not see him again for months.
Yes, great. So here's Tommy Robinson arriving at court.
I'm live on Outspoken. How are you feeling?
Dan, how are you, mate?
Very good, Tommy. Good luck.
There.
Which one? This one?
There.
Dan, how are you? I'm feeling all right.
Another day, another trial. But what is your message for Outspoken viewers?
Just keep fighting. Just keep telling the truth. Hopefully I'll walk out of here in the next half hour, an hour. If not, it doesn't matter anyway, because I'll be out in a month or so, walking out, giving you, and I've already planned it. I'm going to give you the new date for the next UTK event. If I go to jail, I'll do it on the way out.
Want you back out.
Okay. We'll see you in half an hour, hopefully.
All the best, Tommy.
But this is where we are, Dan. You know, he's very relaxed about everything. But the truth of it is he faces a £2,500 fine, and he also faces 3 months away from his children. And, you know, they're making a spectacle of him again.
Lauren, what was Tommy saying to you at breakfast? Does he expect to go down today?
He's saying, you know, surely he can't go down because we've seen this is a complete hoax of a charge. It fell apart. It should have been thrown out within the first half an hour, but then it lasted the 2 full days because it was, you know, they were making an example of him. He's hoping he doesn't. He's taking it all within his stride, but nothing surprises him anymore. You know, he has never had a fair go at the judiciary at all. He is penalized. They want him either dead or behind bars because he is a problem for them, because he speaks out against their corrupt narrative.
Don, how do you think Tommy is feeling? I mean, quite a bold statement to say, if I go down today when I'm released from jail, that's when I'm going to announce the date for the next Unite the Kingdom rally.
Well, you know, 3 months in jail is like a good night's sleep for you and I, for Tommy Robinson, because he's so used to the government picking on him by now. But I think he's, like I said, he has got, you know, one of the problems I always say this about the UK, and the reason you have such a two-tiered justice system is the UK lacks a single codified constitution. But it does incorporate the European Convention on Human Rights via the Human Rights Act of 1998, which the courts have to consider. And obviously that's what Tommy's lawyers are invoking here. And as I see it, if you look at the case and if you look at the ECHR, you can clearly see that all of Tommy's rights were breached under the ECHR. Article 14, 10, 8, and 5 come to mind if you really look at them. Article 14 of the ECHR is the prohibition of discrimination. And we know that these officers, if you listen to their testimony, they discriminated against him based on his ideology. They admitted they immediately knew he was Tommy Robinson, the far-right EDL leader, and all of these things. Well, being right-wing, that's a protected class under Article 14 of the ECHR. So they clearly breached that. I mean, it wasn't like they were stopping him based on some actual suspicion of terrorism. They stopped him and held him all this time because he was Tommy Robinson, the right-wing activist and journalist. They admitted that in court. If you look at Article 10, the freedom of expression, you know, Tommy refused to give his pen to safeguard his journalistic material, which includes, you know, communications with those vulnerable girls from all of his reporting on grooming gangs. You know, enforcing disclosure here risks exposing those sources and chilling his protected free speech. A demand like this from the police is really an overbroad intrusion on investigative journalism, and is disproportionate to any terrorism rationale, because there wasn't a terrorism rationale. They had no reason to suspect him of terrorism. If you look at Article 8 of the ECHR, the right to respect for private and family life, You know, when they compelled him to unlock his phone, it represented an unjustified privacy invasion. Schedule 7 powers must be proportionate here. And without any terrorism-specific suspicion, seizing or probing his personal data really is really more of a general search and violates his expectations of privacy at the border. If you look at Article 5, the right to liberty and security, well, the 6-hour detention was unlawful if the stop lacked foundation. And we know that it did because they had no suspicions of terrorism. They stopped him and questioned him based on the fact that he was Tommy Robinson, the far-right former EDL leader. So this basically turned a routine border check into an, arbitrary liberty deprivation without the, the in accordance with a procedure scribed by law safeguard. So all of these articles and rights of Tommy Robinson under the ECHR were completely breached. And if this judge is just at all, based on these facts alone, Tommy should walk all day long, in my opinion.
Indeed. Okay, so Ezra Levant from Rebel News does have permission to post on X from inside the courtroom, which is very important because, of course, we do not want to be relying on the mainstream media here. He just landed at Heathrow Airport an hour ago, so I want to listen in to his take on what he expects to happen today.
Sure.
Flight from Canada. I'm about to hop in a cab and go downtown for Tommy Robinson's judgment day at Westminster Magistrates Court. He's being prosecuted. The trial was last month for breaching the Terrorism Act, which sounds crazy and scary, but in fact it's a bit of a trick. The Terrorism Act allows police to seize anyone's phone without a search warrant and demand they hand over the password. But that's, of course, only to be used in cases of terrorism. Tommy's not a terrorist. This was police abusing that power. Tommy refused to hand over his cell phone password, and incredibly, they're having a whole trial on that question. So the trial was last month. Today at 10 a.m. London time, that's 5 a.m. East Coast North America, the judge will present his verdict. And Tommy Robinson could be acquitted, or he could be convicted. And if he's convicted, he could actually go back to prison. And I know that sounds crazy and unlikely, but this is Tommy Robinson. He's being treated as an enemy of the state. I mean, think about the last month in Tommy Robinson's life. Less than a month ago, he had one of the largest rallies in UK history for free speech and against mass immigration. It was enormous. Even the lowest estimates by police were 150,000 people, and there were estimates over 1 million. Whatever the number was, it was huge. And then Tommy went to Israel on a state visit, and he met with high officials there. In other words, he is embarrassing the UK politically. He's obviously not a terrorist. That's just a BS way to get him. It's a stitch-up, as they say here. But I'm a little bit worried. I'm always worried. Sometimes I wonder if Tommy Robinson can even get a fair trial in the UK. As Tommy notes, he's never had a trial before a jury of his peers. It's always a judge. And don't kid yourself, judges are political. Now, I'm hopeful because the trial, which I attended last month, was such a meltdown for the government. The police witnesses were deeply embarrassing.
So that is Ezra Levant, who will be broadcasting live from the court, and that is great news. We also have Tommy Robinson, a little bit more of Tommy Robinson when he arrived at court earlier and was speaking to Urban Scoop.
Here, if they're successful today, never bring your mobile phone or your device through the border ever again, because this will open the gates for them to come in, because there's a war going to happen in the UK, and it's going to be the mainstream media acting on behalf of the government against the new media. They wanted to shut me down as a message to any other citizen journalist. My prison sentence outside Leeds Crown Court, I've just shared a video this morning of a journalist chasing someone down. I said I got 10 months in jail for that. But that was about sending a message to citizen journalists, shut up, basically. They're already trying to work out what they can do because of the footage that's coming out from all the different hotels and what's going on. They don't want anyone being... They have to be in control of the media. They have to be in control of what the public get. And we're a stumbling block for that. And every one of you with your cameras is a stumbling block, so I'm very grateful for you coming every time as well.
And that is the huge change, isn't it, Don Keith? The entire way that people are going to consume this verdict is no longer going to be through the mainstream media. It's through you, it's through me, it's through Lauren the Insider, it's through Wendell at Urban Scoop, and that does mean they are losing control of the narrative.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, anyone with a cell phone these days can be a journalist. So it's really that easy. And we know how important that is, that citizen journalists, when we compare it to what we see on the mainstream. The perfect example this weekend when we found out that, you know, how the BBC lied about January 6th and Trump's speech, how they manipulated that speech to make it appear like he was trying to instigate a riot on January the 6th. But this is the type of deceptive editing and deceptive journalism that the mainstream has been practicing for years. We are only now really aware of the depths of depravity of the mainstream media simply because of the advent of social media and the fact that everyone does have a cell phone. And so we can compare that, what we're actually seeing in real time with citizen journalists on the street, with what the BBC is doing now. So it's so much more obvious to us these days how much we've been lied to by the mainstream media, because we see the truth now happening in real time. We all have it on our social media feed. So it's really a great time to be alive in this age of independent journalism and social media, because we can see more of the truth than we've ever been able to see before. So, and I'm really excited about that.
And I think we can cross live to Lauren Lunfarrow outside the Westminster Magistrates Court, who is with one of those independent journalists, AY Audits. Lauren, how is the vibe there?
So the vibe here, I mean, people are just completely perplexed as to the fact that this has even lasted so long, this trial. And I am with AY Audits, who you are doing amazing work on the ground. Can you tell the Outspoken audience about the type of stuff you're covering that the mainstream will not touch?
So I'm covering migrant hotels up and down the country, protest up and down the country, highlighting it to the broader public, really. And I've just been blessed that this last summer that I've opened up a lot of eyes to the situation we've got going on in this country with the migrants.
What do you think the verdict today will be for Tommy?
Look, I hope he's going to get found not guilty, because he isn't guilty. I even said earlier on off camera to somebody, like, I get a lot of people DM me stuff, private stuff, in trust, and we build our reputations and our integrity on trust. And you know yourself, you probably get as well. And for him to be here for not giving over a passcode on a phone, well, let's be real, if they really wanted to get in your phone, they could do. And it's just another stitch up. But part of me thinks to myself, another stitch up, find him guilty, adjourn it for a month, come back again, sentence him, and probably lock him up for Christmas. But, because you just know what these people are actually like.
I want to ask you, you are a citizen journalist on the ground, and your stories are incredible, and they are so opposite from the bullshit mainstream media narrative that people are fed. What are you coming into being a citizen journalist? Because I saw in court, they didn't want us in there. We are up against a lot. They don't want us heard. What have you found doing this job?
So far, I've had smear campaigns against myself from Channel 4, ITV, BBC, like all within the same week, really. Then I was demonetized off of YouTube, so I'm no longer monetized. I've got a court case myself coming up on the 18th of November. It's been not very nice sometimes, like I've been labelled certain things. Said to somebody the other day, I can't accept no more labels. My body is covered up, so I've been labelled everything in the last year, and all I've wanted to do is just report on the truth, show the people the truth, and nothing but the truth.
And I mean, that is why as well, Outspoken is so important. There is no other news channel that is bringing this coverage. And there are so many independent citizen journalists here as well. It is so important that people are supporting these truth tellers like AY Audits. And thank you for joining me today. And I hope that we can come back and say that, Tommy is going to be released a free man. But at this point, nothing would surprise me. Now, this is also the magistrate that did the Hugh Edwards case. If you followed that case, you will know that Hugh Edwards was let off by many who would say it was a slap on the wrist. But this is Tommy Robinson. This is enemy of the state. This is someone that poses a huge problem to the narrative. We know the government and the media are censoring information from us. We also know that they are desperate to label Tommy as a terrorist. They will try every which way to put him down. And so today, we need to keep our eyes open, because if Tommy goes down on this hoax charge, it means that every single patriot is not safe. We cannot take our phones through border control, like Tommy said earlier, because we will have to give over details potentially. And just to recap, we know why he didn't want to give his PIN over for his phone. He had incredibly confidential information relating to grooming gang survivors on his phone. This information was from victims who had been failed by the police. The victims said the evidence, which included their knickers with semen from the rapes, and there's no other way to say it, had been disposed of by police. These are victims that never, ever received a fair trial because of the evidence going missing. So Tommy takes the work he does with victims and survivors incredibly seriously, and he was not going to put them at risk with the same police force that had failed these people.
Very good point, Lauren. And Lauren, I am glad that you mentioned the judge, the magistrate who is in charge today. He didn't send Hugh Edwards to jail. Hugh Edwards, the BBC paedophile, didn't spend a single minute behind bars. Tommy did address that, arriving at court today with Urban Scoop. Let's just watch this now.
Out a verdict, a written verdict where he's going to justify his decision. It took 3 weeks. Obviously, we all played out the trial. We watched the trial. There was a point in the trial where I sat down afterwards with my King's Counsel and said they lost on law 3 times. They lost on law 3 times, yeah? But that doesn't matter. That's what I said to him. That doesn't matter, yeah? When I've been in court cases time and time again, you all watched the film Silence. You all saw the film Silence, yeah? I proved categorically in that case, my case, it didn't matter. The judge ruled against it. I am not being tried, but I wish there was 12 members of the British public making their decision today, but there's not. There's an appointed judge, the same judge that, unfortunately, I think I might as well say now, let Hugh Edwards off. So, for me, that's an establishment case. Hugh Edwards was a paedophile who was part of the establishment inner circle, and he was given no sentence from this court for child images of the worst sorts of rape. So, for me, when I look at that case and look at what the justice he got, I ask questions, but I don't know, man.
And that is such an important point to make. Don Keith, at this point, we haven't really spoken about the judge in charge of this case because we are hoping that he's going to do the right thing, the sensible thing. You sat through all the evidence. Tommy is now inside. We are waiting to hear the verdict at any point in the next half hour. But remember, this is a man who did not send Hugh Edwards to jail. If he sends Tommy Robinson to jail today, we're going to know something, aren't we?
Oh, 100%. I don't really see how I could and you know, get any sort of respect as a judge from here on out if he decides to convict Tommy Robinson. This case has been lost on every level by the state. I just pointed out to you 4 different articles of the ECHR that were breached, where Tommy's rights were breached in this case. It would be an absolute travesty of justice. But, you know, Tommy Robinson isn't one of the elites. You know, he isn't the Hugh Edwards that gets protected by the judges, or, you know, the Nick Browns that get protected by parliaments when they get expelled from parliament for, you know, allegedly abusing, you know, children under the age of 16. But, you know, it's sort of par for the course, and Tommy's used to it. So we'll see what happens. But if this judge has, you know, any self-respect at all, he'll let Tommy walk today. That's the way it should be, in my opinion.
Okay, we've just got some footage in of Tommy on the way to court this morning. So we're going to watch that in just 1 second. But if you are just joining us. Let me tell you what's going on. In about 3 minutes, the judge is expected to at least start his summing up in this Tommy Robinson terror trial. So we are expecting in the next hour to discover whether Tommy is guilty or not guilty. Of course, you cannot get honest coverage from the mainstream media, so you're going to get it here from Outspoken today. We're with Don Keith, host of The Real Beef. With Don Keith, he sat through every moment of this trial, and Lauren Lunn-Farrow, host of The Insider on YouTube, who has been with Tommy Robinson this morning and also covered this trial for us. Here is what Tommy said on the way to court this morning.
Yes, as well, am I? No. I'm just wearing a hoodie because I'm not on trial. I'm going today to get my verdict for a terrorism court trial where I was arrested on the 28th of July last year. I was detained under Terrorism Act in preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism, and then I was questioned for 6 hours about my political beliefs, where they then said they wanted access to my mobile phone. I refused to give them access to my mobile phone based simply on the fact that I'm a journalist. Well, 2 points as well. We're meant to have freedom of speech, we're meant to have freedom of the press. I'm a journalist. Why would you... And there was no suspicion of a crime. So they didn't suspect a crime, but then they can use this legislation, which is exactly what the words were. As they detained me under Terrorism Act, they said, Stephen, we know you're not a terrorist, but this legislation allows us to do this. It's like, what? So anyway, they wanted access to my phone. The reason I said I didn't give them access to my phone was just simple, was I have journalists, I have my sources of information are on this phone, people who give me information which are protected, or they're meant to be protected. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So I've gone to a trial. I'm very grateful Elon Musk has picked up the legal bill for this. I believe it's upwards of nearly £100,000. Isn't it mad? It's financial terrorism. All of these continued cases and this continued attack, and it's a continued assault using lawfare by the establishment, by the state, which has been non-stop for 15 years. There's not been one single period. I was about to say now, no I haven't. I was about to say once this is gone, this is the first time that I haven't got another pending court case, but I have. I've got another one next year in October 2026, where I face 10 years. And that's for questioning some Daily Mail journalists. But anyway, we're on the way to get our verdict. There can be two options today. I could get not guilty. There's no jury. It's a judge. There were 3 different moments at our court case, 3 different points that they lost the case, and that's according to my King's Counsel. When we sat down afterwards, he goes, they're finished after that, they're finished. They admitted it was unlawful. They admitted what they'd done was unlawful. They also admitted the reason they pulled me in was because of my political beliefs. Nothing else, which is discrimination, which they're not allowed to do under the Terrorism Act. But again, none of that really matters. I've been there, and I've said to my King's Counsel this time when he said it, I said, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. And they didn't give the verdict on the day, so this trial finished, what, 3 weeks ago, was it? Yeah. 3 weeks ago? So, and they didn't give the verdict on the day. He reserved judgment till now, so he kicked it off for 3 weeks so he can so he can justify his verdict. So he's either going to justify finding me guilty or not guilty. Now, if he finds me guilty, he can sentence me to prison. So,
Let's hope not.
let's hope not. Yeah, let's hope not. But it's just, again, like, really, what this man, if he rules against me, then what he's saying is that anyone with our political beliefs, anyone, can now be detained under terrorism legislation, and they can seize every one of your assets, your electrical devices, and you have to give them access or you're guilty under Terrorism Act. And then what are the knock-on effects of me being say I'm convicted today, what are the knock-on effects of me being a convicted terrorist? What country is going to ban me? Will I be banned from the European Union? Will I be banned from leaving the UK, basically, as a terrorist? Is that the wider picture here? Do you know what's mad? Let me tell you. What's his name? The Jihadi Next Door. There's a terrorist. There was a program called The Jihadi Next Door. Watch it on Channel 4. The terrorist from that contacted me before I last went to jail. He DM'd me on Twitter. Said, do you remember me, Tommy? I looked him up and said, no, who are you? He said, you come to my house in Northampton. I said, oh, you still a little jihadi prick? Because he was, after the Manchester terrorist attack, I looked up who the worst jihadis were in the country and thought, let's see where they live. Just to see how close they are to kids. When I found him in Northampton, he was 4 doors up from a primary school. So if he wants to go on a killing spree, just like Salman Abedi did, then nothing's going to stop him. Even if he's under 24-hour surveillance, he can climb out of his back garden and go kill a load of kids. And there are kids. Not the Home Secretary's kids, not the Prime Minister kids, our kids, because they're housing them with us. But I went to him and I replied, "Are you still a jihadi prick?" He said, "No, I'm not actually, Tommy." And I went back and forward and I've still been in discussions with him. And he said he's left all that mindset, but he's still a Muslim. He's fell out of all that group. He told me quite a few of them have left that mindset. It's quite mad. It's quite a lot of that hardcore element that when we started the English Defence League, we were opposed to Al Mujahideen, a terrorist organisation. A lot of their ex-members, he says, are no longer radical. I found it quite mad. Maybe I'm going to try and follow up on this with him. I've asked him for a sit-down. He's asked counter-terrorism because he's convicted terrorist. He said what they're going to do is when he saw that I'd been detained under Terrorism Act, he said they're going to do to you what they've done that they did to us. I said, what's that? He goes, once they get a conviction under Terrorism Act, then they can bring in all these civil orders against you. Can't do this, can't say that, can't go there, can't talk to this person. He goes, that's what this is about. So we'll find out. We'll see today. Maybe they do get a conviction today. Maybe then they start trying to implement other court orders against me or civil orders that would prevent who I talk to, where I go. That's what he says they're going to do because that's what he says they did to them. They got them a conviction under Terrorism Act, then they give them all these civil orders. And if they breach the civil orders, just like my civil injunction, you go straight to jail. But we'll see. That's where we're on the way to court for now. I'm tired. What's time? 8:15. We'll know in the next hour 45. I think 10 o'clock's the verdict. I don't know, or 9:30. But
Very first.
yeah, full English. That's where we're at anyway.
And we are awaiting Tommy Robinson's verdict in this trial. It was due to begin at 10 a.m. Ezra Levant of Rebel News will be reporting for the independent media from the court. But we are with Don Keith, host of The Real Beef with Don Keith, and Lauren Lunfarrow, host of The Insider outside the Westminster Magistrates Court. Lauren, I guess it's really important to point out it is Elon Musk, as Tommy Robinson revealed in that video. It is Elon Musk who is funding this entire case. That is so significant.
It's so significant. And I think what's important to remember as well is the way this government and judiciary operate. They want to make sure people have no money left, so they can't fight these cases and they end up giving up and they give in to the system. It cannot be taken for granted what Elon Musk is doing here, because Elon Musk sees people like you, Dan. He sees people like your viewers, like Tommy, who, want free speech. They want fairness in the judiciary, and they're just not getting it. And what do we see with people like Elon Musk and Tommy? They won't play the mainstream media's game and they wipe the floor with them. They omit facts. I was in court with Tommy last time, and what happened was he was put inside literally a glass cage and locked. I was mortified. I could not believe they were treating him like this. We then saw all citizen journalists behind a screen, and it was, you guessed it, the propaganda puppets that were sat inside the court. Now, I saw the propaganda puppets from the mainstream. They weren't sat there writing down the facts that people should know. They were omitting facts, and they were all looking at their analytics on their laptop screens, because this is the truth of it. Tommy Robinson is a national hero. He does incredibly well for their views, but they cannot bear to say anything positive about him. Why? Because he has showed the system for what it is. He has exposed the mainstream media corruption. And what you'll see here, over to the corner as well, is where the mainstream media are sat. They don't mix with any of the citizen journalists. They keep themselves to themselves. And quite frankly, I don't even know why they bother turning up, because their narrative is already written. What's interesting today is there are no barriers. There are no police. You might remember last time it was very performative. We had 21 police here. They weren't actually doing anything. They were stood talking. It was, we know, to give the mainstream that little picture that goes with their narrative. There were barriers here. And the worst thing would be for the government and for the mainstream media is for Tommy Robinson to walk out of here a free man. But make no mistake, if he gets off today, there is still another court case next year. They want to put him away. He poses such a threat to them because he's a truth teller, and he has been a truth teller for decades. We saw the brutal murder of Wayne Broadhurst. We've seen the stabbing on the train in Huntingdon. Both of these crimes have not been labelled terrorist attacks, yet Tommy Robinson is inside there, locked behind glass, while he finds out if he will be going to jail for terrorism charges. And this poses a real threat to people like you, people like me, to everyone in the country, because it is reinforcing we do not have a fair judiciary. Even if Tommy gets off today,
Lauren, I'm loving the St. George's Cross behind you, though. That makes me happy. That makes me happy. Who is this patriot, Lauren?
Who are you? Why are you here today? I'm on Dan Wootton Outspoken.
I know, I've watched him so many times.
He's brilliant. Why are you here?
I'm here to support Tommy.
Yeah?
And I just hope he walks out of these doors today.
Do you think he will? You do?
My heart goes out to him.
He's taken lashings for decades, hasn't he, for the public?
I'm backing Tommy 100%.
Well, I love
loyal
it.
to Tommy.
Yeah, and I love your flag. Did you know, though, you could be deemed as a right-wing terrorist for carrying this flag? How do you feel about that?
Fuck them. This is our country.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And what do you think of Keir Starmer?
Keir Starmer is just a fucking wanker.
Well, and to be honest, I think that gentleman sums up the mood of the nation, really, doesn't he?
Line of the day, Don Keith. Line of the day, and it's only 10:09.
Oh my gosh! But it really is. I think that's the sentiment among everyone now. And I'm so happy with this social media. And you see more folks like this supporting Tommy. If you go through his social media or you look online, you'll see people almost every day. I see someone who says, Tommy, I used to believe all the mainstream media hype, but now with social media, I see that they were persecuting you. I'm on your side now, and you're absolutely right about everything. So, Tommy Robinson is a hero to the British people, and they see that and they feel it. That's why you have nearly 1 million people turning up at these demonstrations like they did in the last one. So Tommy's going to keep fighting. They're going to keep trying to persecute him. He's got a trial coming up next year where journalists doxed him and his family. And then he said, you know what, if you can dox me, if you can come to where my family's vacationing and let the world know where we're at, well, I can come to your house and take pictures as well. Well, Tommy Robinson, good grief. He gets charged for this, for doing the same thing the mainstream, but nothing happens to the mainstream. So people are just tired of this two tiers. Really, it's two tiers of justice, and it's two tiers of society where there's an expectation for how you should behave if you're working class versus how you should behave if you're upper middle class or upper class. One of the biggest problems I see in the differences between the United Kingdom and the United States is how there's still such an observation of the class system in your country. We don't really have that here.
No, indeed. Now, look, I'm just going to interrupt because we have the first reporting from Ezra Levant in the courtroom. So let's get to this now. Ezra writes, I am now in the public gallery of Courtroom 1 in the Westminster Magistrates Court. 2 feet in front of me in the courtroom itself are 12 regime journalists. Although the judge has accepted my Canadian credentials, I have been told to sit in the public gallery. I don't mind at all, except that there's a thick plastic barrier that makes it hard to hear. I'm with other citizen journalists back here, but none but me are allowed to have their laptops open. The UK has a real problem with access to justice. They favour regime journalists. The 12 accredited journalists are by definition part of the establishment. There is an inherent bias against Tommy Robinson in excluding citizen journalists. I predict this will have to change in the years ahead. The judge is Sam Goose. He calls the court to order. He addresses Tommy Robinson, who is in a room by himself, also behind a plastic sound barrier. The judge now recounts the facts of the matter. Tommy driving to the Channel Tunnel in a car when he was pulled over by police and detained. The judge recounts that Tommy was recording his interaction with the police until they took his phone away from him. The judge recounts how Tommy had his legal rights explained to him. The judge recounts that Tommy refused to turn over his cell phone password because he had sensitive information on his phone. The judge recounts that Tommy was warned and then warned again. The judge recounts that Tommy and the cop talked to Tommy's lawyer. The judge says that otherwise Tommy cooperated with the interrogation of him. The judge now refers to the law, the Terrorism Act. He recalls that the purpose of the law is to interrogate people for terrorism, commission, preparation, instigation of terrorism. The judge explains the purposes of the law. That's relevant, I think, because none of the questions put to Tommy touched on terrorism. Don Keith, it seems too hard to be able to tell so far which way the judge is leaning based on this opening.
I disagree to a little bit of an extent there. The end gives me a little bit of hope on the terrorism thing, because what he's saying this is kind of what I in the opening when I explained to you about the ECHR and the different articles that were breached. The whole purpose of this Schedule 7 is to stop people and interview them about suspicion of terrorism. None of that, no terrorism was mentioned when they were interviewing Tommy. That was all about his ideology. His ideology is protected in the ECHR. So that, being right wing, that is protected. And to me, what that judge is saying right there about terrorism, he's kind of alluding to the fact that this was not a stop based on terrorism. It was a stop based on his right wing ideology. So I'm hopeful after hearing that last little bit you read there.
There's a bit more. Fighting terrorism, the judge says, the importance of which can scarcely be overstated. Those who have watched the recent spree of knife attacks in the UK, none of which have been deemed terrorism, might like a word. That's Ezra's commentary. Judge says there are safeguards in place to handle confidential journalistic information in a phone that's seized. Judge cites various cases establishing precedents for the use of the Terrorism Act and this search provision. In addition to the journalists, there are about a dozen lawyers in the courtroom. I say again, the government of the UK spends millions of pounds in its vendetta against Tommy. So we are starting to hear this summing up from inside the court. It's very, very interesting stuff, and we've got a little bit more. Judge,
well, I'm less hopeful after hearing that, I can tell you.
Yeah, well,
I thought he was leaning the other way, but I don't like that last little bit.
Well, yeah, because he says, judge says the exercise of the search power does not require there to be suspicion of an offence. So, Lauren, we're now getting word from Ezra Levant inside the courtroom. Do you know what the procedure is today, Lauren? Will Tommy be told today, if he is found guilty, whether he will be receiving a custodial sentence?
I believe he will be told today. The whole process has been very strange, Dan. They were not forthcoming in communicating anything to us when we were in court. And what I did really want to explain to your viewers as well is anyone who fell outside the mainstream media remit, we were very much looked down on. They were trying any which way to get us out of court. Every time we were making notes on our phone, they were telling us we couldn't, when in fact we could. So there was not a lot of transparency. It's a very, very strange situation. It feels like the establishment have completely lost control and are desperately trying to pin it on something. But the truth is, this is a hoax charge. So I will be waiting eagerly to see what the verdict is. And Ezra is doing a phenomenal job in bringing the commentary and is the only person that you can rely on inside of that court.
Yes, and we are getting more from him in the past minute. Ezra Levant posting, the judge says you can't be convicted under the law if the search itself is unlawful. This is, in essence, the defence case. The judge says there are protected characteristics about which the cops can't interrogate. That includes political and religious beliefs, but of course not journalism. And he says asking someone about legitimate political beliefs and activities is not fair game for interrogation, which is, again, Tommy's main defense. So it is on the wire. It is on the wire. Just as we await this verdict, let's see what our friend Howard Cox said arriving in court this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm on my way to Westminster Magistrates Court to see the day of judgment for Tommy Robinson in a ridiculous court case taken against him under terrorism rules. What a load of bollocks. Anyway, anyone listening to his case, which I have for the 2 days a month ago, will see that the case is completely and utterly dead in the water. The police got it wrong, overstepped their mark, and frankly were appalling in everything they delivered in their evidence. So, you know, it's a shame that one man dictates Tommy's freedom. It should have been in front of a jury. In fact, it shouldn't be put in front of anyone at all. It's completely a no-no case. So, we'll let you know what's happening later.
And we do have some more from inside the court. The judge has said, was the purpose of the stop legit? Were the protected characteristics an important part of the interrogation? These are two tests to see if the search was valid. Having reviewed the law, the judge moves on to the evidence, and the lawlessness of the stop is his focus. So, Don Keith, is this matching up to what you saw presented in court?
Yeah, you know, if you listen to the testimony of the police, everything they said about Tommy and the whole reason they stopped him and were, you know, used this Terrorism Act because they knew he was Tommy Robinson. They immediately recognized him. They knew he was Tommy Robinson, the far-right former EDL leader. This was all in their testimony. There was nothing about, yeah, well, you know, this and that. You know, he was driving alone was one of their suspicions. I mean, how many people don't drive by themselves every day? They completely ignored the fact that he goes to Benidorm all the time. But they themselves said it was his political ideology that they were most concerned about. Now, if you look at Article 14 of the European Convention on Human Rights, it specifically prohibits discrimination by ensuring that the rights and freedoms in the convention are secured without discrimination on any ground such as sex, race, color, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, association with a national minority, property, birth, or other status. And that's word for word I'm reading there to you. So that political opinion there, that should be open and shut case right there. Their whole spiel, those cops, were because Tommy Robinson was a far-right former EDL leader. That's what they said multiple times. They admitted it was all about his political ideology. Not once was it about suspicion of terrorism. Because Tommy has the most recognizable face and one of the most recognizable faces in the United Kingdom. Sure, he's been accused of a lot. He's been in court a lot. He's never been accused of terrorism. So this is just a way to, in my opinion, if they do convict him of this, a way to perhaps restrict his rights worldwide, so maybe he can't go to another country. Maybe other countries will prevent him from using that passport so that he can't travel. So maybe this is their way around that. It all seems very nefarious to me. If they convict Tommy Robinson of a terrorism charge because of his political ideology, this is not only is it going to chill free speech and free expression and journalism all over your country, people are not going to even want to come into your country anymore because it's so tyrannical. You know, I looked up last week of all the top 20 countries in the world, the UK ranks number one for arrests of for arrests of people for online nonviolent speech offenses. 12,000 arrests last year and this year alone. They rank number one. They're ahead of Russia and China and Belarus, if that tells you anything. So people are already weary of coming to the United Kingdom, but if they start jailing journalists for not giving up the passwords to their phones, it's going to be a much darker day in the United Kingdom.
Indeed it is. A bit more coming from Ezra Levant in the courtroom in reference specifically to the police officer whose evidence in court was severely lacking. Ezra's written, judge refers to the first cop, the one who drank a whole carafe of water on the stand. The cop had said that Tommy was unusual because he was driving a fancy car, a friend's car, and bought his train ticket the day of travel to go to Spain. That was the sum of his terrorism. The judge recounts that the cop lacked some answers in cross-examination, including what powers he was using and what the limits of those powers were. This was a key assertion by the defense lawyer. Lauren Lunn-Farrow, what's going on outside court?
Outside court, and I've spotted GB News, and I'd like to ask them actually why they're even bothering to report when they won't let Tommy on their channel. So I'm just going to go over and see if they've got anything to say, because this is the system we live in. People think these channels can be trusted, and they can't. Hiya, you're live on the #1 independent news channel, Dan Wootton, Outspoken. Just wondered why you're here when you
Oh my
won't
gosh,
feature
running like
Tommy.
cowards. Look.
I just wondered, you won't feature Tommy, so why are you covering it? Sorry, you won't feature Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe, or Tommy Robinson. No, but I just want to ask you, why are you censoring people's news? Well, there you have it. More propaganda puppets, Dan. They won't say anything. And that is why Outspoken will tell you patriots the truth. And we are outside court. And I mean, this is just unbelievable, isn't it? These Muppets pose
Oh my
as journalists and
They're
can't
scattered
answer
like ants.
a
They were
simple
terrified.
question.
Oh, that was brilliant.
I know, terrified of a woman
Oh
in a
my
bow,
God.
for goodness sake. But
Oh my God.
we are
that's
outside
hilarious.
court waiting, and you will
Yes.
see, you know, there's an amazing collection of really hardworking, professional citizen journalists. They are all here.
And we've got more from Ezra inside the court. He says the judge is now recounting the TikTok timeline of Tommy's detention, including Tommy being made to park in public view for a great length. The judge recounts that the cop testified that he couldn't even recall the questions he put to Tommy. The judge refers to the cop's reference to the English Defence League, disbanded a decade ago, as a political line of questioning. I mean, given this is all in the summing up, Don, if there's a guilty verdict after this, it is an absolute outrage. It feels to me like the judge is acknowledging how lacking the police officer's
That's what's
evidence
going on.
was.
Yep, that's 100%. It's everything I said at the beginning. The judge is recounting. At first he was, sort of giving his summary, recounting what both sides are, the defense and the prosecution, and the points that they made in the trial. But now I think he's kind of going the other way. I think he's going our way. It sounds like it to me, because now he's really showing where they screwed up, where these cops couldn't even remember the questions they asked Tommy. The cop made Tommy sit there for 40 minutes before he even told him he was being detained on Schedule 7. They admitted that Tommy could have just legally driven off during that 40-minute time where they had him sit there before they made him aware that he was being detained for Schedule 7. So the whole thing was a screw up. You could tell these guys got together. Oh, look, it's Tommy Robinson. What can we do to really screw up his life today? And the whole thing to me sounds like a conspiracy between, I believe there was 3 cops involved in this stop, if you include their boss, the chief there. But yeah, I don't think they have a case. And I think the judge is really starting to he's starting to show their cards for them. So,
well, I hope so, because he's now referring to the other police witnesses. So he says the judge refers to the next police witness. Like the first cop, he recognized Tommy. And this is Ezra's view. These bored counterterrorism cops were starstruck by Tommy's surprise arrival. They sort of panicked, or they felt they had some scoop, so they detained him just because. Judge refers to a third police witness. This cop claimed it was Tommy's behavior which made them interrogate him, but that's insane, because what was the behavior? This last cop took notes, but destroyed them. And Ezra says, sure, I mean, why on earth would notes of the interrogation have been destroyed? I mean, that alone feels like the destruction of evidence to me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if there's ever been a stitch up, this is for sure one of them. And I think his use of the term starstruck is spot on. They recognized him as soon as he pulled in. They're clearly not on the right side of politics at all, because they had to figure out a way to get Tommy Robinson. Oh, look, we've got Tommy here. How can we get him? The whole thing just sounds like a conspiracy to me, and I think the judge is starting to touch on all the mistakes he made to sort of point that out, because he's probably the judge. Regardless of which way this judge goes, he's probably going to get a lot of backlash from one side or the other. But his whole job is to make sure his decision is just, not worry about who the backlash comes from. And if you decide that Tommy Robinson is guilty in this case, then that's not a just decision. So, I hope this judge makes the right decision today. This anybody can looking from the outside who's not completely biased against Tommy Robinson can see that this whole thing was a stitch up and it's ridiculous and needs to be he needs to be let go. He needs to walk today.
I hope so. So look, if you're just joining us, let me show you a live shot of the Westminster Magistrates Court. Inside, Tommy Robinson is about to discover whether the British deep state is going to forevermore brand him a terrorist. This is a completely shambolic case, but the judge's summing up, I think, is making it clear just how weak the evidence is. We are, of course, going to be live with Lauren, the insider outside of the court. We are hoping to see Tommy Robinson exit. And we also have joining us Don Keith of The Real Beef with Don Keith, who sat through all of that evidence earlier this year. Of course, it was this extraordinary situation, Don, where the judge agreed for the verdict to be delayed in order for Tommy Robinson to make a state visit to Israel, where he was being taken to the country by the Israeli government. A completely extraordinary and astonishing decision for a judge who might be about to declare this guy a terrorist, but then say, we don't need to give this verdict immediately. You can go off on your 3-week state visit to Israel. It's ludicrous. It's farcical. The whole thing stinks.
Yep. And the mainstream media and the establishment just hates that Israel paid for a trip for Tommy Robinson. Because now if you look at the content that Tommy put out during this Israel trip, it was world-class material. He was interviewing people on the streets, interviewing shop owners. He was interviewing Jews. He was interviewing Muslims and Christians, and he was showing the world the sights. But any legitimizing of Tommy Robinson by the state of Israel is going to be frowned upon because they hate that. Everybody wants to keep Tommy Robinson in his little pocket where they can demonize him as this far-right EDL figure. That ship has sailed. The EDL hasn't been around for a long time. And even when it was around, it wasn't the racist organization they tried to make it out to be. But that's all gone now. And Tommy is turning over a new leaf. The problem is the society in the UK does not want Tommy to become this reborn man and with this new career in journalism. They want to keep him in that little pocket of the far-right EDL activist so that they can continue to pick on him. They can pigeonhole him and do all of these things. But, like I said, that ship has sailed. Tommy's a new man now. He's one of the best journalists in the world. If you look at the content he puts out, the guy is a hustler. He is world class. Tommy Robinson is. It's a privilege for me just to be able to hang out with the guy and travel the globe with him and see how he works, see how his mind works, and see what he does. Because the guy really is. He doesn't get a lot of credit for how brilliant he is. The guy is brilliant. He's got a mind like a steel trap. He's just. He's a world-class journalist, in my opinion, and I think the world is going to have to recognize that, especially after this Israel trip.
Yeah, exactly. And if the British government and judiciary today decide he's a terrorist, I think there's going to be even more anger. Look, this is the coverage you don't get from the mainstream media. Israel Levant managing to have a laugh as the judge delivers his verdict because he's written, the judge said that the third cop testified that he didn't know what questions were being put to Tommy. And Ezra has posted a movie poster from that incredible Hot Fuzz Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movie. He's now moving on to the fact that Tommy didn't testify in the trial himself, but the judge has said that no inference can be taken from that. The judge recalls that Tommy's lawyer pointed out that no questions put to Tommy touched on terrorism. That was during the initial police interview. And the judge recalls that Tommy's lawyer argued that Tommy's politics were a central reason for his arrest and detention and interrogation. This is coming in live from the courtroom in the past few seconds. The judge says it's concerning that officers have no real recollection of what happened during the interrogation. He asks, was the dominant purpose of the interrogation appropriate? And he adds that Tommy was made to wait 40 minutes before he was given proper process. Now, Don Keith, again, if this judge is now confirming that the officers had no real recollection of what happened during the interrogation, he cannot find him guilty.
That's right.
Surely.
That's right. Yeah, you can't make a statement like that against the procedure and the police and the questions they ask and then convict the guy. So it's over. Tommy's going to walk on this. I'm 100% on that now. I don't think there's any way this judge
Big bombshell just in. Ezra's posted this with a siren. Judge, this missing information affects the credibility of the cops. So Lauren Lunn-Farrow, that is a huge line emerging from the judge inside court. All signs now pointing, Lauren, I would say, to a not guilty verdict.
We hope that is what we will see. And it's interesting. I didn't want to say this before, last time we were in court, but the story that we were led to believe in court was that these cops were very early on in their career. For me, in my personal and professional opinion, it sounded like they thought this would be a great one to get under their belt, kind of elevate them up the ranks, get Tommy Robinson banged up. But what we saw in court was nothing stacked up at all. They didn't treat Tommy as they should have. He was left waiting around. And these terrorism charges are completely unfounded. There is no merit to it whatsoever. Obviously, the establishment want and are desperate to paint Tommy Robinson as a terrorist, so none of us can freely support him. But hopefully today, we will start to see the tide turning and all, as patriots, start to be able to have a little bit more faith in our judiciary. But let's not forget, he's back in court again next year. They want him away. He poses such a threat.
So we are getting some extraordinary information from the summing up live from court from Ezra Levant, the boss of Rebel News. The judge has just said that missing information affects the credibility of the cops and that the police testimony lacked vigor or rigor. Ezra now seems to be saying that the judge is referring directly to Tommy Robinson and saying it is actually what you stood for that caused you to be targeted. And Don, if political beliefs are indeed a protected characteristic, that means the police could be in deep trouble here. There's another line from the judge that's just come in. This is at the forefront of my concern. None of the officers can overcome this. So this looks like an incredibly botched operation by the police and by the British state, Don.
Yeah, it's political persecution by the state is what you're seeing here. You're seeing incompetent police officers with an axe to grind against Tommy Robinson, who thought this was going to be their shot to get him. And like Lauren said, sort of maybe work their way up the ladder. Well, look what we did to Tommy Robinson. But they completely violated what I mentioned earlier, Article 14 of the ECHR there, political affiliation. An opinion is a protected class under Article 14, and they completely breached that. They botched the whole thing. Incompetent policing at its finest. So now maybe going forward in the future, these other police officers will take a look at what these guys did. There needs to be a reckoning here for these police officers. So I don't know if it's civil or criminal or what, but I think Tommy should pursue some sort of legal action against these three individuals. Personally, if possible, or the department at least, because this needs to be a lesson for folks out there who think they can pick on folks like Tommy Robinson or other independent journalists who happen to be on the right side of politics. Going forward, this should be a lesson to all those folks. This Tommy's going to walk today. This judge is going to make the right decision here. This is going to be a lesson learned for the establishment in the UK. You're not going to get away with this stuff any longer in the age of independent journalism. So
yeah, this is potentially a seismic moment. The judge says the police wishing to question regarding terrorism may wish to explore your associations, etc. But in this case, based on the evidence, it was your political views. The officers didn't remember what questions they asked with any degree of reliability. The judge says that this was driven by your political beliefs. That is, it wasn't terrorism. There is no evidence at all to suspect terrorism. So huge bombshells coming from this judge's summing up inside the Westminster Magistrates Court. And by the way, we have this poll running on our live chat asking, what do you think the Tommy Robinson terror verdict should be? 96% of you saying not guilty, just 4% saying guilty. And it really is looking that way because there's more in just in the past few seconds. The judge says, what's the purpose of the stop? Are Tommy's beliefs, which are protected, the central purpose of the arrest? Those are the two tests, says the judge. And the judge's answer to those questions, number one, what's the purpose of the stop? He says he cannot be sure. But are Tommy's beliefs the central purpose of the arrest? He says protected characteristic has an influence. I cannot get out of my mind that your beliefs is why you are arrested. So my reading of this, Lauren Lunn-Farrow, is that this judge is blowing a hole in the government and the police's decision to arrest Tommy Robinson and put him on trial. This is extraordinary.
Yeah, this is extraordinary. And also it just shows how deep the rot
Lauren, I'm just
is.
going to interrupt. Breaking news from inside the court. The judge says, in light of my findings, the decision to stop you was not lawful. The judge tells Tommy to stand, says he is acquitted. The public gallery chairs, the regime media look very glum. So breaking right now, Tommy Robinson not guilty on terror charges. The state's case against him, the police's case against him has completely collapsed. Lauren, you're celebrating there with a Union Jack. Tommy Robinson not guilty.
Not guilty. So look over there, all the people that are going to run your fake news that omitted details, they are going to have to write that Tommy Robinson is not guilty. Amen. He was never guilty. He was never going to be found guilty. Today, we see justice served for Tommy, and I'm going to wait over here to make sure I can get him as soon as he comes out of the court. He is going to be delighted.
Lauren, what's happening with Tommy's supporters at court? Are they aware of the verdict?
Yes, so everyone is now coming round and ready to get the shot of Tommy coming out. It's a big day, Dan. I mean, we weren't sure what way it was going to go, and now there is no way around it. The corrupt legacy media are going to have to write that Tommy Robinson is not a terrorist. These hoax terrorism charges have been thrown out. So on we go as patriots. Do you want me to take that one? And I'm just waiting to chat to Tommy here for Urban Scoop and Outspoken.
Okay, well, let's keep Lauren on screen. If you are just joining us, there has been a seismic result in the Tommy Robinson terror trial. Here's Tommy.
Tommy, how are you feeling?
Hold on. Watch out. Jason, please watch that door. What are you doing? Watch the door. BBC fella. Right, okay, yeah. Door. Hold on. Don't let him look at the door. You are behind me.
How are you feeling?
Don't worry, Tommy. Yes, get in. Someone needs to watch that door. Yeah. Don't worry, no way. Watch him, he'll come out that door there. On that door. On that door. So, Tommy. Get two on that, Mark. Okay, good. We won. Race. You all right there? Getting a bit too hot. Right. You in here? Yeah. Based on my belief and my political. Now, my grievance now. Well, not my grievance. First of all, thank you, Elon Musk. If it wasn't for Elon Musk, why is it took an American businessman to fight for our justice here and our fight against terrorism charges for journalists? Now, over there in a minute, it's going to come the journalists, the mainstream media. Go back now. If you want to see if you can trust the media, go back now and read read what they said about this trial. When I was on trial, read what they said. Read the headlines, read the news that they gave out, and then read the judge's judgment. Right? Because all those journalists sat on that trial, they knew the police acted unlawfully, they knew they acted illegally, they admitted it in court, and none of the journalists told you that. None of them. They were hoping they had another bench judge that would rule against me. And then you, the public, would know nothing. That judge's verdict is a slam down against the police. An absolute, read what he says, yeah? Read what he says, read about their evidence. It was corrupt. It was unlawful. For me, I'm frustrated still. I should be happy. I'm not happy because I shouldn't be put through this time and time again. I walked out of this court last year at a cost of £53,000 with a not guilty. I've just walked out again. This is nearly £100,000 been spent on this case. What for? And my main thing, it's the mainstream media sat through this whole trial. They knew all the unlawful practices in this trial, and yet they didn't report them. They hid it from you. They hid it from you. I'm so glad that judge has given such a powerful judgment now that says it how it was. I was targeted because of my political beliefs. So say that out loud. The government, on behalf of the government, counter-terrorism targeted me to try and get access to my phone as a journalist. Where's the outrage from the mainstream media in this? They were trying to get my access to my work that I do and my investigations that I do as a journalist. That is a corrupt state. That's what it is.
Tommy,
It's frustrating. I should be happy. I'm not. I should be happy, shouldn't I?
Congratulations, Gaffer.
I'm angry.
So just repeating the
I was
news,
targeted by the
Tommy
police. He
Robinson
found
not guilty.
this should be unlawful. This arrest was unlawful. Think of the headlines they're throwing around the world about me. My name with terrorism have gone worldwide. And we've now...
You go from here.
This is the second time, if you read the last judge's judgment, that I was targeted by the police. He found it to be unlawful. My bail conditions have to be unlawful. This arrest was unlawful. Think of the headlines they're throwing around the world about me. My name with terrorism have gone worldwide. And we've now found out that every single second of it, from the first 30 seconds, was unlawful. It was targeted harassment due to my political beliefs. That's what it was. And that's what's now been proven by a court of law. Do you know what? I need to say thank you to Elon Musk. I'll also say thank you to the judge. Because I didn't expect the judge to do that. Because that would have took a lot. Because we shouldn't feel like that. But I feel we live in a politicised judiciary and a politicised country. He's come down very strong on the side of freedom and on the side of fairness, and I'm very grateful for it.
So the judicial system has worked today. So that is so great to hear that, Tommy. Go away.
Where's that Dom? Where's that? He hasn't come out yet. Yeah?
He was scared to even...
Well, he's in there. We're waiting for him to come out. We're going to wait for him to come out.
I actually asked him if he would engage with on your channel and ask...
No, I'm going to go away. Aidan, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the headlines that they run from my trial. Bearing in mind the media sat in trial, they listened to every bit of evidence, which this judge has made his verdict from. So I'm going to read what the media said, and then we're going to read... And then we're going to... Who's coming out? And then we're going to read what the judge said.
So, final question before you go, Tommy. I know there's lots of things you want
Kids,
to do.
I'm coming home.
A lot of people are asking questions concerning uniting the kingdom in 2026. Can you just release a little bit of information to let people know what might be planned?
Well, what's going to be planned is another event. It's going to be bigger, it's going to be better, it's going to be louder. Let me just see if the copper's replied yet. Wayne?
So this is live and direct.
Live and direct, here's my last...
Meet up with you lot at the next UTK event, mate.
When's on? Because I've been on him. Look, I'm on him. I'm on him. I'm on him. I'm on him. And what we may be forced to do is just release the date. We've got the date. We know the date. We want it. But we want to make sure for an event like that, it's going to be big. It's going to be a worldwide event. We want Hyde Park, yeah. But we need to work with the police properly on it, which is what we're trying to do.
It's so important.
It's important. What's that?
Can we name a month?
Nah, because what we'll do is they'll start jumping in and trying to block out all the dates, yeah?
Tommy, how do you feel media have to write that you are not a terrorist
today? They probably won't. You read that judgment, yeah? He hammered them. He hammered them, yeah? They won't report that. Aidan, what we need to do is now go on... They're reporting. The thing that gets me... The thing that frustrates me so much is that they all sat in that trial and they run headlines about expensive car, cash... No, the headline is the police have targeted me unlawfully and arrested me without grounds. Sorry. I should be happy. I am happy. I'm going home to my kids. I'm very happy. But I'm happy for everyone's support, everyone from around the world who's given me support. And again, just Elon Musk.
Big up Elon Musk.
And again, and also Carson Kay and Alistair Williamson, the KC. He absolutely, he's. Do you know when you watch someone who's so good at their trade skillfully picks out of pieces? I'm watching it just thinking, wow.
But this should have never happened.
It shouldn't have been here. Why have I been here? Yeah. Time and time again. That's my fault. I've got another trial lined up now. My solicitors just said to me before, we need to see you about your next trial. It's like,
isn't there any possibility of getting compensation for all of the money spent and all of the stress and hurt you've gone through?
When I walked out of court last time, I can see what shot they're trying to get. Look, when I walked out of court last time, I'll get on your camera.
Now you're back to that
one. When I walked out of court last time, there you go, Don. When I walked out of court last time and I was looking, when I walked out of court last time, right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Done.
So
look, all they're going for, look.
So Tommy,
I know what you're trying to do. Done.
So Tommy, all I can say is thank you very much.
Yes, Sam.
It is great that you. Hold on, no. You're going to break. Yeah.
Ezra, let's go.
So what we've now got to get me my microphone.
So, the news from the Westminster Magistrates Court, Tommy Robinson not guilty. Let's go back to our Lauren Lunn-Farrow.
The mainstream media, he hammered him, yeah?
Hey, Dan, I'm just with Tommy, who's chatting to Ezra, and he's
Okay,
just
let's
talking
listen
about...
in.
And then you read the BBC and you read all the Daily Mirror and you read their headlines from this trial. None of them wrote any of that. You did. None of them wrote any of that. So they would have hoped that he'd have found me guilty, and then they wouldn't have had to write any of that. And then by excluding all of the citizen journalists, by excluding them, they had control the narrative. But they didn't, thanks to that judge. He gave a damning verdict. I'm happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm happy. I didn't expect that, did you? I just don't expect it. Even though my solicitor says it, I just didn't expect it. I just think, nah.
He's an honest judge. It builds your hope in the system a little bit.
Yeah, he hammered him. He didn't just he could have sat on the fence on a couple of issues. He hammered him. He hammered him, man. And I'm pretty shocked by it, to be honest. I'm not just shocked. I'm angry. I'm angry at the mainstream media's reporting of this case. When I was on trial, when you was here, they didn't report about you getting dragged out. They made it about driving an expensive car. So what? What's that got to do with terrorism? It's my mate's car. There's no big story there. What's the story?
This judge said you were targeted for your political beliefs, and that's illegal. Do you think this will make it less likely that police will target you for your political beliefs, or do you think the cops will ignore this ruling?
How many people do you think will lose their job over this today? Nothing. No one. Who's going to be held to account for this? No one. This happened 12 months ago, Ezra. 18 months ago, we walked out of this court where we found that the same police, that they use unlawful bail conditions, unlawful arrests. They found all that then. So they found all that then.
Great to see you.
Are you going to Thursday? Good luck, man.
Tommy, the mainstream are over there. Yeah. The mainstream that...
BBC ain't there.
Hang on.
Sorry, Lauren. BBC ain't there.
Oh, they've all scurried off.
Only of them must stop me.
All scurried off now.
So Tommy Robinson, having been found not guilty, he's looking for the mainstream media. Let's listen in.
You was one of the journalists who sat on my trial, yeah? Listening to that verdict, not one single journalist who sat on my trial reported any of the unlawful stuff. Shush. Not one of you journalists. So you sat there. Who was you reporting for?
I'm about to report on your not guilty verdict.
Okay, sure.
I'll go ahead and do that.
No, but can I ask you who you're reporting for? Who you're reporting for? No, can I ask who you're reporting for? This is a normal environment for me. This is what you do to me. So can I ask who you're reporting for?
I am not about to report on your not guilty verdict in this environment.
No, I'm not on about that. I'm on about when you sat on trial, because you sat on the trial, you kept rolling your eyes all the time, like that. You sat on the trial. Not one single journalist who sat on that trial. Stop pushing me. Stop pushing me. Not one single journalist who sat on that trial reported one single thing that the judge found them. Why not? Why not?
I just can't report on your not guilty verdict if this is the environment
You're
that
not
I'm
listening.
being
No,
put
you're not
under.
listening. No, you're not listening. The environment I was put under, we sat on a trial, yeah, where all you mainstream media, you sat and listened to the evidence, which is what made his verdict on today, and listen to what the judge has. Can you please stop?
Yeah.
I don't care. Shut up, man. Just shush. Right, so how...
There's a fucking woman in here. I'm not doing nothing, mate.
Doesn't matter. How come not one of you reported any of the stuff the judge found today? During the trial, I'm talking about, you made it about a car, you made it about money, you made it about me, you made it about far right.
As I've said, I am here about to report on your not guilty verdict. I can't do it in this environment.
Why didn't you
Obviously not.
report one of the single facts that come out today?
I actually don't think you know what my reporting included, so I don't think you can accurately accuse
I did.
me.
I searched the internet. I searched the internet after my trial, and I found that not one person found that, because the police officer admitted he acted unlawfully. The police officer admitted he detained me after 34 seconds. Not one of you reported it. I'm confused. Why not? I'm frustrated by it, if I'm honest. I'm frustrated by the mainstream media's
You
reporting on
cannot
this case.
accurately make that accusation of me.
Okay, who did you report for?
As I say, I'm going to try and report your not guilty verdict.
Yeah.
But I cannot do that if
Why
you put me in
didn't
this
you report
situation.
when you sat in court for 2 days? Why didn't you report what happened in court to your audiences? Why didn't you report what happened in court to your audiences? Why didn't you report the truth of what happened in court? Because all you report, no, you didn't report about cars and money. Why didn't you report about all the stuff the judge was found? Because that all happened in court. You didn't report any of it.
You have no accurate
Yes, I do.
information about what my report
Yes, I do.
included.
Okay, you didn't. 4 seconds.
I did.
No, you didn't.
I did.
No, you didn't. Who did you report for?
Look, this is a very intimidating environment that you're putting me in.
Why is it intimidating? I'm asking you questions. This is what I get everywhere I go.
Surrounded by
Everyone acting calmly. Of cameras, they're all journalists.
To say that happens to Tommy every time.
You have me physically cornered.
No, it's not.
And making accusations. And you are making accusations are not accurate. So of course, this is
None of you reported anything that happened. So you're going to have to report that verdict now.
intimidating environment that you're putting me under.
Right, Dan.
Go and see your girls.
Dan. So there we just had it. I don't know how much of that you got, but Tommy confronted a mainstream media journalist and asked, why did you not include any of the key details in your report previously? Couldn't confirm who they worked for, was deflecting, saying they felt trapped. Let's remember, this is what Tommy's subjected to for their for-profit corporations.
You go and follow him, Lauren. See if he's speaking to
Tommy
any other.
is going off now. He is with his security. They are taking him out safely back to the car. Let me see if I can get in. It's nuts. Can I come in for Outspoken? Can I come? Tommy?
No, I get it.
Tommy?
No. So just ignore me when I do that, bro.
Okay, Tommy. Tommy, what's your message for Outspoken viewers?
That what they, although we won today, they banned citizen journalists in our court case today. They prevented citizen journalists reporting on today's case.
That's true. So, Dan, the fight continues. What
Lauren,
you're seeing
why don't
here
you go
is an
and find
absolute
out?
scrap.
Why don't you go and find out, Lauren, where that mainstream media journalist is reporting from? Because she would not even tell Tommy, look, the crowds are away now, and she said that she felt intimidated. Why don't you just go back and try and find out who she's reporting for, Lauren? Because it's very telling to me that she would not even tell Tommy where she was from. Don Keith, while Lauren's doing that, what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that journalist, how cowardly. You know, as I understand it, part of your ethics as a journalist is you're supposed to tell what outlet you're working for. And this lady, she just would not do that. So, yeah, and then she was intimidated by the people gathered around her asking questions. Well, that's what she does. She gathers around people with other journalists and asks them questions. But when it comes to her, she doesn't like when the shoe is on the other foot, as we say. She's intimidated. Oh my gosh, you've got me trapped. I feel threatened, whatever. So, yeah, it's amazing to me. But, you know, one of the things I think we're going to find out going forward is how integral it was that Ezra Levant was given the privileges he was given as an independent journalist in that courtroom. Because had that judge not given Ezra that privilege, we wouldn't know the truth coming out of that courtroom, right? Ezra is the 100%. Only one who was reporting on it. So that was a big moment in this trial when that judge allowed Ezra to continue reporting as a journalist.
100%. Let's just go and have a look at the moment that we broke the news. Watch this. Inside the court, The judge says, in light of my findings, the decision to stop you was not lawful. The judge tells Tommy to stand, says he is acquitted. The public gallery cheers. The regime media look very glum. So breaking right now, Tommy Robinson not guilty on terror charges. The state's case against him, the police's case against him, has completely collapsed. Lauren Lunn-Farrow with Ezra Levant, the man who was bringing us those incredible verdicts from inside the court today. Let's cross to Lauren with the great Rebel News boss.
So I am here with Ezra, who has been exclusively covering this court case. Ezra, they didn't want you in there, did they?
No, you know what? And I was allowed in there, and I was allowed to use my laptop, and I was allowed to live tweet, but the regime journalists didn't want me to sit 2 feet closer in the actual courtroom. I was behind a pane of glass with the public gallery, but I felt like I was with the people. The thing is, I was the only independent journalist in the entire building, because other independent journalists, for example, Young Bob or yourself, were not allowed in. And I think this is a major access to justice issue. The world is online. There are a lot of digital first journalists like yourself. And for the court to grant preferences to legacy media, regime media, like the BBC, which has been greatly discredited in recent days, I think that it torques the world's view of what happened. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean. If you were a British person and you relied on the regime media to know about this trial, you would be shocked today that Tommy Robinson was acquitted.
Yeah.
Because all you would have heard during the trial was, oh, and he was driving a fancy car, and you know, he had cash on him. Like, they were trying to have lascivious details. But in the regime media, they did not cover the weaknesses of the case.
Yeah.
So if you rely on the BBC for your source of info, you'd be saying, what happened? How did Tommy Robinson get acquitted today? Because the regime media did not tell you.
But it was the regime media that led Tommy to get arrested, because it was the very distorted image of Tommy that these police officers had when they arrested him on this hoax.
You know, it was a very powerful ending. The judge sort of kept his cards close to his chest until the end. The judge didn't let it be known which way he was going until he started to go through the conduct of the police, the fact that they were vague, they forgot details, they didn't take notes, their notes got destroyed, my cat ate my homework kind of excuses.
Yeah.
And then the judge brought it on home. The judge said, was the preponderant reason, was the primary reason Tommy Robinson was arrested because of his politics, because of his personal views, because 10 years ago he was in the EDL. And the judge said he can't get it out of his mind that that was the real reason. And that is against the law. You cannot use the brutal weapon of the Terrorism Act, which is such a blunt instrument, such a powerful instrument. It can suspend your civil liberties. It can force the police into your phone without your permission or a search warrant. To use such a powerful weapon when you are motivated by political animus is illegal. This judge effectively said the police broke the law. Now, he didn't say it in a cruel way, but he said the police shat the bed. The police are why this was thrown out. And this should be a message to every police officer in the UK who is operating on a vendetta against Tommy Robinson. Do not do it. There are still honest judges in honest courts that will call you out. Big victory for Tommy, big victory for independent media, and I'm actually very encouraged because I love the law. I love the law, but I've seen the law being trampled on, and I started to worry, can you even get a fair trial? And Tommy got a fair trial.
I think as well, Ezra, we have seen the law fail so many women and children in this country, especially with the grooming gangs.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to think, you know, there is no justice. But today is not just justice for Tommy. It's justice for patriots, for free speech, for the movement, isn't it?
It is, but it is still a loss in terms of time, energy, money, stress. It was a defensive battle. Tommy could not, you know, the best Tommy could do would be break even, as in he's no further behind than he was a year ago. But all the time and the stress, he had a dinner with his kids last night. He said, I don't know if I'm going back to jail. No one needs to live like that. So I think the message that Judge Sam Guzzi gave today in his ruling was, to the establishment, to the deep state, to the vendetta machine, to the government, to Keir Starmer, back off and do not make false allegations under the Terrorism Act. Do not elide political views with terrorism. It's illegal. And he said so quite forcefully today. Tommy was very animated in his scrum about that. I was very excited by that too, but it's got to stop. As Tommy said, he still has more court cases ahead.
Yeah, and this is the thing. He's very lucky that Elon Musk paid for this court case, but this is £53,000. Tommy has paid thousands and thousands. They want him penniless or they want him behind bars. That is the bigger picture with the deep state and Tommy.
Elon Musk is a very important person, not just in the United States, in the UK and around the world. He's done two important things. Number one, he has allowed Twitter to re-find its grassroots historic freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So he has empowered everyone here. But then in the acute cases where people are singled out for their work on Twitter, he has funded their litigation. And I don't know the dollar amounts involved. You mentioned a figure there. I don't doubt it. That is far beyond the means of an ordinary person. So it comes to an extraordinary person like Elon Musk. We should all be grateful to him. He is as important as any head of state.
And also, you know, citizens do not want to be living in a totalitarian state where someone like Tommy is on trial for terror charges, where Lucy Connolly is behind bars. This has to stop. We are all being persecuted.
Yeah, and every single day, according to the Times of London, 30 people in the UK are arrested for hurt words on social media. And I mean, we all know young Bob was arrested and held overnight in the police station. There was the migrant hotel auditor who was arrested. The police raided his home. I mean, we only know a small, like, the mind can't handle the number. Like, it would be 200 a week. I mean, you just listed 2 or 3 names, but there's 200 a week.
I was arrested 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, some of the people here are chiming in that they were arrested. So it's a real plague. I come from Canada, which is part of the British Commonwealth, and we look up to the UK as the source of a lot of our laws and our traditions. And freedom of speech is a very core British value. And it pains me to see that in its home turf, that value is in retreat. In Ireland also, I see it. On the continent, I see it in France. I think censorship is trying to cover up you listed some of the problems, the rape gangs. Censorship is a tool to cover that up.
Ezra, I just wanted to ask before you go, you were recently attacked at a protest. You are so kind, approachable, you know, and I was so shocked to hear that. What happened?
Sure, there were 2 things in Ireland, and I think people are confusing them. One is I was at a protest that turned into a bit of a riot, and I got pepper sprayed, and I don't take that personally. I mean, if you're in a rambunctious scene, you might get a whiff of pepper. I think the cops did target the journalists, though, because I know GB News was pepper sprayed, and there was a Spanish reporter pepper sprayed. But you know, that's not the end of the world. It stings for a few minutes.
GB News.
Well, I give them credit. Dougie Beatty, I think, was doing a really good job there. But then I was jumped from behind by some masked man, and I don't know who it was, and he knocked me down. I got up a moment later, and I mean, it hurt, but I don't understand I simply don't know who it was, so I don't know what was behind it. But that's certainly not going to deter me. A lot of people have suffered a lot more than that. And I mean, thanks for your friendly words, but it's not going to stop me.
No, of course. I mean, look, there's a lot of people on the ground that are getting the truth out. And this is why citizen journalists have never been so in demand. And, you know, Dan and Outspoken is the only independent news show. You know, it's phenomenal that we can bring viewers exactly what's going on here.
Well, you know what? It's the best of times and the worst of times. And Dan is on my mind when I think of the best of times. And Meyer Tusi, and there's a few others like that. Enormous ball. I mean, Dan does an enormous production every day live.
Yeah.
And it's such a big audience. It's so well produced. I don't know how he does it. He's such a fountain. I'm not just saying this to suck up to him. I mean, I watch news in a lot of different countries, in the United States, in Canada, in Australia, in the UK, and I don't know how Dan does it, but it's an amazing product. He gets top-notch guests. He's got great, and he does it every day.
And he knows as well how the deep state operates.
Yeah.
You know, he has been at the very center of the mainstream. So it's amazing to be able to bring people the full narrative and truth in.
And YouTube has recently relaxed a little bit in its censorship. And I think that's attributable to A, the competition from Twitter, and B, Trump's win has brought with it a new support for freedom of speech. So it has sort of a knock-on effect to other media as well. Anyways, we're having a mutual admiration society. We both love Dan.
Ezra
And,
Levant,
and we
you
hope he
amazing
continues to
man.
be a strong voice
Thank you
for
so
freedom.
much. Real
Ezra,
Don
thank you so
Keith,
much. Lovely to see
your
you.
reaction
Ezra, that
to
was a lovely
this
quote.
verdict.
Well, I think, that's the verdict that I predicted, and I'm just glad it turned out that way. While you've been talking to them, I've been scrolling to look at the media who've already released this. It's shocking. It is shocking. All of the media, even GB News, released the verdict, but every single one avoided the fact that the judge agreed with the prosecution. If you read the articles here from GB, from the Yahoo News, the mainstream, if you read these articles, their entire reporting is basically what Tommy's lawyer argued this. Tommy's lawyer argued that. None of these articles, none of these news outlets are reporting that the judge agreed with his lawyer. So that just tells you right there how biased. None of them want to tell you that the judge lambasted these police officers and the way they treated and the discriminatory practices they used to treat Tommy Robinson as a terrorist. None of them. If you read GB News, it's all, Mr. Williams, who's Tommy's lawyer, argued this. Prosecution argued that. You don't see anywhere that the judge agreed. Any respectable outlet would say, well, the judge said this, the judge found this. This was the judge's statement. The judge really, lambasted the police, for their behavior here. None of them reported
Totally.
that.
And what's
They're not
interesting to
reporting
me,
right now.
I'm just going through this GB News article. You're totally right, Don. But look, there's one comment, and this will be an automated comment put up by the viewer. I'm not a fan of Tommy Robinson, but this was a gross abuse of power by the police and reinforces how biased and corrupt the CPS are. So again, it's like the public knows. Look at this. Next comment. He should sue for wrongful arrest and illegal detention.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows it was a political act to charge him with terrorism. But that isn't the coverage from GB News, because the mainstream just cannot accept it. And look at the picture that I've used there. That was, look, they're trying to paint him as a monster. Don, even GB News.
Well, yeah, and if you compare that article, I don't know who writes these things and passes them out, but if I read Yahoo News and I read GB, it's the exact same article. It's the exact, almost line for line. So I don't know if this is like, you probably know better than me how this works, but how are they all writing the exact same article? You know what I mean? Is this
They
a
probably
freelance journalist?
have taken press association copy, and that is the problem. You are literally all running the same narrative. And look at our reporting of the moment and look at what we were able to reveal. Let's go back to Lauren Lunn-Farrow outside court. Lauren, it's extraordinary, isn't it? Don is completely right. The mainstream are all, even with this not guilty verdict, none of them are reporting what the judge said, which is that the police's case was a lie. It's completely fallen apart. And even GB News is not reporting it, Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, GB News aren't. And GB News have also tried to get me off camera and scolded me for asking them why they are here when they will not report on Tommy or the facts in full. Today is such a big day for Tommy, but also for shows like Outspoken, Dan. People want the truth. We are desperate for the truth and we deserve the truth. And that is what these people are not bringing us. You can see behind me, this is all citizen journalists. This is all independent media who are still here talking through the entire case and the result in full. But we know that the mainstream media, as we saw even recently with the Buckingham Palace document you exclusively revealed, there are editorial guidelines sent to the mainstream media. That is why they all churn out the same rubbish. They will never be able to give people the full picture because the full picture clearly says this was not legal. He should have never been arrested. It was a gross misuse of power and it doesn't stand up. It's laughable. It lasted 2 days.
And Lauren, earlier on, you actually confronted the producer and camera person for GB News, and they refused to speak. So I just want to play this moment.
Outside
Watch
court,
this.
and I've spotted GB News, and I'd like to ask them actually why they're even bothering to report when they won't let Tommy on their channel. So I'm just going to go over and see if they've got anything to say, because this is the system we live in. People think these channels can be trusted, and they can't. Hiya, you're live on the #1 independent news channel, Dan Wootton, Outspoken. Just wondered why you're here when you
Oh my
won't
gosh,
feature
running like
Tommy.
cowards. Look.
I just wondered, you won't feature Tommy, so why are you covering it? Sorry, you won't feature Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe, or Tommy Robinson. No, but I just want to ask you, why are you censoring people's news? Well, there you have it. More propaganda puppets, Dan. They won't say anything. And that is why Outspoken will tell you patriots the truth. And we are outside court. And I mean, this is just unbelievable, isn't it? These muppets pose as journalists and
They're
can't
scattered
answer
like ants.
a
They were
simple
terrified.
question.
Oh, that was
I
brilliant.
know, terrified of a woman in a
my
bow,
God.
for goodness sake.
Lauren, it was an amazing moment, wasn't it?
Oh my God, it's great.
It was. What I want to do, Dan, as well, sorry, I'm being followed around, caught by someone. What I want to do is just go up to the mainstream media, because if someone came up to me as an independent journalist, I'd be thrilled to answer questions on the truth. So, guys, I just wanted to ask you, because you're mainstream media, are you ITV or GB News?
GB News.
Okay, and so you're reporting today. Why won't you feature Tommy Robinson on GB News?
He's not here.
Oh, no, I know, but you don't feature him, Ben Habib or Rupert Lowe?
It's not a decision for me to make. I'm sorry.
Okay, and so are you giving full narrative coverage today?
It's interesting, man. Thank you. Thank you.
No, are you giving full narrative coverage today on Tommy Robinson?
We're covering the court case.
No, but are you giving full narrative, a full breakdown of exactly what was said inside the courtroom?
We're giving the coverage of this.
Okay, well, there we have it. So that is as close as you could possibly get to the mainstream media. Sorry, the police are just interjecting there. This is the problem, Dan, you know, all of
Well,
these
they're not
journalists
giving
are-
full narrative coverage. That is the problem. But look, Lauren, incredible reporting from the Westminster Magistrates Court today. Don Keith, you are a total legend, of course, and everyone must follow Don Keith on X and make sure that you watch The Real Beef
At Real
with
Don Keith.
At Real Don Keith. And of course, Lauren's own YouTube channel is Lauren
Thanks for having
the
me, Dan.
Insider. We have done the coverage that you won't get from the mainstream media. You've both proven it today. And I'm so grateful. But I just want to end with this incredible moment. Oh, there's young Bob. Should we go and have a quick chat to young Bob?
We love Bob.
I'm here with young Bob. Young Bob, you are an amazing patriot. What do you feel of today's outcome?
I appreciate the fact that nothing will come of our friend Tommy Robinson. However, I would have preferred the case to be thrown out and the verdict come the week, not the week after his state visit to Israel. It just seems like a waste of resources. And of course, everyone makes money in a court case besides from Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, of course. You were arrested as well. I know you can't talk about the specifics, but what challenges are you facing by the deep state as a citizen journalist trying to report full narrative, truthful content?
Well, actually, I got immediately NFA'd last week, the night before I was meant to return on bail. And this is pretty consistent with the Epping operation and most of the migrant hotel protests as well, is that the process is the punishment. They just want to prolong your arbitrary bail conditions, which mostly include you not allowed to continue your work. For example, I was on curfew. I had to stay every single night at one address, even though I'm considered homeless, which means I was sofa surfing. So for the police to set these bail conditions seems very loaded towards particular protesters and patriots that they want to set an example of to ensure that none of these pressures continue. And for Tommy Robinson, this sort of figurehead of citizens journalism and a very well-known activist, for him to be suspected as a terrorist, even though his opinions are very well published, even for myself, when they arrested me, they said, "Young Bob, you're under arrest." They didn't use my real name, which meant that the arresting officers only could identify me.
Stop and just pan round. There we have someone that's come in a mask and full sunglasses. This is not a citizen journalist, so this is really interesting. Yet again, we're getting Antifa are here. Yeah, but thank you, Outspoken viewers, for coming for the full truth. And today is a good day, but we stay focused.
Indeed, Lauren Lundfarrow of The Insider, Don Keith, host of The Real Beef with Don Keith. Thank you for staying with me on what has been a historic day. I think other than the not guilty moment, this was probably my favourite from the day.
As a right-wing terrorist for carrying this flag. How do you feel about that?
Fuck them. This is our country.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And what do you think of Keir Starmer?
Keir Starmer is just a fucking wanker.
Well, and to be honest, I think that gentleman sums up the mood of the nation, really.
Oh, God, what a day. Thank you so much to my incredible producer, Jesse, who's on the scene there as well. He's been battered and bruised today, believe it or not, by the MSM, which is just appalling. And Jaden, who's been with me nice and early as well. We are going to be back with you, though, as usual, for the main show at 5 p.m. UK time. That's midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. There's going to be a huge amount of fallout from what has been an incredible not guilty verdict for Tommy Robinson today. He is not a terrorist, but we knew that already. So at 5 o'clock, we're going to be asking, how on earth did this get to court in the first place? Why on earth has the mainstream media been so dishonest in its coverage? And on my superstar panel this evening, Leilani Dowding and Elizabeth Fox. Thank you so much for your company today. Please do subscribe to my Substack if you do want to support what we do here on Outspoken. The address is www.outspoken.live. And remember, I promise to always keep fighting for you. See you this evening.